Let's look at the Canadian teams in the Eastern Conference and their futures odds, courtesy of our friends at FanDuel. The Leafs 15-1 to win the Stanley Cup. The Senators more likely to miss the playoffs than make them, according to FanDuel. The Habs considered a big long shot to make the postseason. And with that, it's an annual tradition where we bring in Mike Johnson and Craig Button to preview the National Hockey League season. Is this an annual tradition that the two of you really look forward to?
What we're really coming down with, we like Jersey so far. That's what we're going with.
Okay.
After a big weekend, we love Jersey. Yes,
love New Jersey.
Yeah, we definitely look forward to this every single year, repeatedly.
And it's a Monday night. I just hope that there's enough time left for Luke to come in and talk enough about the Monday nighter.
He's already talked. He's out of here. He's fine. You guys don't need to worry about him. Let's start where we always start things on TSN with Toronto. And thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So you got Craig Berube. You've got some additions on the defense, and I really like what Brad Treliving did there. Max Pacioretty, Steven Lorentz come in on PTOs. Here's where Leaf fans seem to be a little unsure or not thrilled about the situation that the core four is intact and there's maybe no plan going forward. Is this a better team than they were last year, in your mind, and a more capable team of winning the Stanley Cup? Mike, I'll start with you.
Well, if you assume that their top players haven't regressed, and maybe Tavares might a little bit at his age, but the other guys, Nylander, Marner, Matthews, they're probably not getting worse substantially just yet. So have they gotten better on defense? I think they have. I think the guys they went and got, I think Chris Tanev is a really good complement to Morgan Riley, so obviously Tanev should be good, but also Morgan Riley should be a lot better, and that's something that's very important to Toronto. I think Oliver Ekman-Larsson had a really good run with McCabe. Like, that seems like a pretty good second pair. Is their goaltending better? Well, they got a guy in Stolarz. I'm not sure how much he's going to play. But statistically, by start, you can make a pretty easy argument. He was the best goalie in the league last year. Like, that's how good he was. So across the board, you made some changes. You improved your team, and you changed the coach and shook up what was a comfortable situation for a lot of the top players. So, yeah, does that mean they're going to win the first round? No, it absolutely does not. But are they better? I think, yeah, they're slightly better.
Yeah, I think they are. And, you know, people get concerned about the core, and we know what they haven't done, which is come playoff time.
Yeah.
But I watched the same thing play out in Detroit with Steve Yzerman and Sergei Fedorov and Nick Lidstrom. And then they had to change the construction of the team somewhat. They had Dino Ciccarelli. They had Ray Shepherd. They had Paul Eisenberg. They had a lot. And then they shifted. They had Marty LaPointe, who they had drafted. They ended up with Kirk Maltby and Chris Draper and Darren McCarty. And, you know, then they built out the blue line. And I think that Toronto, in a lot of ways, I think these players, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Riley, I think they're at a stage where they're understanding that the demands on them are pretty significant, but I think they're able to handle it now. I think, and that doesn't mean that they didn't want to handle it. I think the ascension to the captaincy for Matthews is right timing, but I think with Craig Berube, just like when Scotty Bowman came into Detroit, the right touch sometimes at the right time is what you need to just get over that hump, and I think they're ready to do that.
And I'm not one to usually give coaches too much credit or blame. It's the players that get everything done. But in this case, I think having a coach encourage this group to play differently in the regular season in preparation of being different in the playoffs is important. I don't know if they would have been able to accomplish that under Sheldon Keefe because they had so much success under him playing a certain style. So they may not score quite as much in the regular season, but ideally, whatever they do in the regular season translates better to the playoffs because what they were doing previously didn't.
Chris Tanev, and I don't want to dismiss him because Chris Tanev, what he has done over the last number of years is he makes whoever he plays with better.
Yep.
He makes situations in the game defensively, penalty killing specifically, better, which makes the team better. And it's not about one player. But I really believe that his presence in this team and the way he plays the game it doesn't matter. He's going to leave everything he has out on the ice, and I think that that's going to really help not only Morgan Riley, the defense group, certain situations, and ultimately the team.
Let's talk about the Ottawa Senators. Curious to get your thoughts on how you think Travis Green might make an impact as their new head coach. But obviously the big addition is Linus Ullmark. This is so massive for them, and it's played out beautifully in the preseason so far. You don't want to get too ahead of yourself, but it really seems like this is a different team. The question is, are they a playoff team, Mike?
The answer, I think, is no. But they've addressed their biggest challenge or hurdle in becoming one in Linus Ullmark. And there's something that a goaltender can do for a player and a group. When you have faith in your goalie, and when he cleans up the mistakes that you make, you don't feel bad about yourself, you don't beat yourself up, you have a chance to kind of move past it and keep playing forward. Of course, he's going to get you more points because he's as good as he is. I think it's massively significant that they've gotten him, and he's going to be as good as he is. He was great in the preseason, his couple starts. So, yes, that's pivotal. But the bigger question for me is not net, which they've addressed. It's the players that play up front. It's not even the new guys they brought in. It's the guys that are their core. How much can they grow? How much can they improve, Craig? Because I think that's where the greatest change has to occur. And that's taken care of. But now, can the guys who are the most important players, and Stützle, Tkachuk, Batherson, Pinto, like Shabbat, Sanderson, can those guys make the adjustment to be better, more winning regular season players?
That's what they have to show. I look at the Ottawa Senators like a stock portfolio. You get good performing stocks. Individually, they've been good performing stocks. They've been rewarded. The team has invested in them. What the Ottawa Senators ownership and management needs now is a return on that investment. That's the question right now for the Ottawa Senators. Can they do it? Linus Ullmark is I don't think there's any question that he addresses something that's significant for success. But is that group good enough? We've seen it over years where there's good young groups, good teams that just together can't get it done.
Look at Edmonton for all those years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it took, it's weird. It was almost like the Ekholm trade was the beginning of that gelling. You talk about Tanev and stuff. So you wonder if, could Ullmark be that? Could David Perron be that for the Sens, maybe?
They will all help. They went out and clearly, the goalie's the goalie, but the positional players they acquired, it's Cousins, Matteo, Perron, Jensen, all guys who've been pretty successful. A lot of them won a Stanley Cup. But mostly they're competitive. Competitively, consistently.
Right.
So every night they sort of bring, they might not be as talented as the top end guys, but they bring that work. And they also understand how you have to play to win in this situation, day after day. And that's what they're trying to change. Now, my challenge, my wonder is that, it's not like DJ Smith didn't ask them to do things differently. It's like Jacques Martin's not a smart guy and said, hey guys, at this moment in the game, you can't turn the puck over. Like, the other smart coaches have asked the same thing Travis Green is going to ask. So I sort of have to see it before I believe it, because I want to believe it. I want them to do well. They're a good, talented team, but I have to see it first.
We had a really good, talented team in Dallas, and in 95, 96, we were anything but a good team. We were dysfunctional. We had lots of good players. We had Modano. We had traded for Newendike. We just weren't very good. And, we had Guy Carbonneau, who was an older player, experienced. We brought in Patty Verbeek. And I can't begin to tell you the competitive tenor, how Patty changed the competitive tenor of our team, because he wouldn't tolerate anything less than your best effort.
Right.
And Mike, as a player, the coaches are going to ask you to do things, but you have to say, I'm going to do it. And sometimes you need a nudge. I know that Patty Verbeek was only one player, but just having that presence, Cousins, Amadio, and certainly Perron, I think that can create a little bit more of a competitive environment for the other players. Not that they're not competitive. Sometimes you think you're competitive, but you don't know how competitive you have to be successful.
And if it goes well, they will be a playoff team.
Right.
If it all comes together because the talent is there. And the talent might be the hardest thing to acquire. Now they have to find sort of the rest.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Habs real quickly. The Line A injury is tough. The Reinbacher injury is tough. Can they take a step forward? Maybe not expecting playoffs from them, Mike, but can they take a step forward? And maybe you're talking about those core players like your Suzuki's and stuff.
I think the step forward for them is adding more players to the group. Right. Suzuki, Slafkovsky, Caulfield, Gouli, Montembeault, Matheson. What other guys can join that crowd? Can Doc, as a healthy year? Can Lane Hudson? Who else can step in there and say, when we're good in another year after this, these are our 7, 8, 9 guys, and they have 4 or 5. They'd like to add 3 or 4 more. That's what this year is about. Good news is, tons of talent that could grow into that. But that will be the challenge for Marty St. Louis. Try to be competitive, but grow. And the Line A trade kind of almost seemed to indicate, Craig, that maybe we're ready to start pushing this a little bit further down the line, maybe?
Well, what you want to do is I think you got to push from one tier to a higher tier. They've been in the bottom 8 teams in the league. So now they want to get into that next tier. That, to me, is what it's about for the Montreal Canadiens. Do I think they can move into the next tier? Yes, I do. But there's a lot of areas that they got to make strides forward in. And losing Line A, where the goals for on the power play were down, that hurts at the beginning. But they have a lot of good young players. Marty St. Louis, Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon have done a really nice job. I think one of the biggest things for me is hearing Jeff Molson talk about it was really hard to say we're going to do a rebuild. But hearing how the fan base and how they've accepted it and embraced it, and more importantly, seeing how the plan is being executed, it's given him a lot of confidence that we don't have to push significantly higher, but we have to move higher.
Last year, though. This is the last year we'll talk like this.
Right.
Next year, they should have identified whether Laine's back, whatever it is, the salary cap room they have. Next year, they have to make a push to contend for a playoff spot.
We're being played out already, guys. We got to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Western Conference Canadian teams with Craig and Mike.